everyone. My name is Diego Alfonso, and I'm one of the hosts for the Florida Aviation Network. We are broadcasting live and in the clear from the Aerospace Discovery section at the Florida Air Museum located on the Sun and Fun at the airport of Lakeland in Florida during the 41st annual Sun and Fun Fly-In and Exposition. Today, our guest is Mr. Carl Bradfield. Mr. Bradfield is an author. He was a sergeant during the Vietnam conflict, and I want to say he's an extraordinary individual because he's full of stories. The stories so juicy that we really didn't want to pass this up. And please help me introduce Carl Bradfield. Carl.
Hi, welcome. Thank you.
Pleasure to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you very much.
Carl, I know you wrote a book, and we're going to talk about that. But before we get to that, what I would like to cover is that we were talking off air before, and it seems to me like you have a lot of stories that are related to the time that you were in Vietnam. And why don't you kind of give us a little bit of that, especially the ones that are related to flying and helicopters and that type of thing?
Well, I was with the 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley, Kansas in '65. We sailed over as a unit and landed in Vung Tau in October. Okay. I was infantry, but my air experience and air time is quite extensive because we flew in the helicopters, the UH-1 Hueys, okay. Chinooks, Caribous, C-130s, C-123s. I was strafed by F-105s. I was strafed by A-7 carrier jets, Crusaders. I was strafed by the Hueys. As a matter of fact, we shot each other in the beginning because nobody knew what kind of a war we had.
Right.
As far as the air goes, I was shot down 2 times in helicopters, coming in on hot LZs. We were told that it was a hot LZ the first time, and I was sitting on the side, on the next to the door gunner, and I was able to look out. We were the 3rd helicopter in the line in the string of 10.
Right.
The first 2 were already shot down. I could see the Viet Cong right below us. I could still see them. And I was just about to say to my buddies, "We are now the lead helicopter." I didn't get that out.
Okay.
And we bing, 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 and then here we go. We went down. That's a jam. But I didn't get hurt. None of the guys got hurt, except for bumps and bruises. One of the bruises we usually got is the helmet bouncing off the ground and splitting our lip. That was normal.
Right.
The pilot and co-pilot, I think, were killed because we crashed upright,
right.
Nose first. The other time I went down, actually, it was a hot landing zone again, but we were flying out. Okay. And seven GIs were allowed to get on each helicopter because of the weight.
Right.
An 8th man, the helicopter might not get off the ground. And our battalion, I missed. We lined up in 7s.
Right.
I was an odd man, and so my platoon left me behind. I said, "Hey, where you going?" The battalion commander came on and insisted I get on a fully loaded helicopter. And the lieutenant said, "Sir, I don't think we're going to be able to lift off with this many men." He was right. I got on, sat on the deck. He lifted off, got about treetop high, and we went into the jungle. Crash, 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 crash.
Oh my God!
But some of the aviation, of course, I was in the first major battle of the Vietnam War. That was a brigade battle.
Okay.
It has to be a brigade battle to earn the Battle of that title. And it was at Tan Binh, and that's February of '66. There were no airstrikes then. Our commander, he didn't know, but they were so close. because I killed I dispatched many Viet Cong over
Right.
there, some as close as you are.
Right.
You know, I didn't hand to hand because I always had a weapon,
Right.
and I wasn't about to, besides you had such a bad breath. A true beetle not see, that true beetle not see. But anyway, this next big battle, the biggest one was called the Battle of Bong Trang. That was in August of that year. And we had plenty of air strikes coming in on us then. We were also the first unit to be napalmed in the war, accidentally, Our commander was Alexander Haig Jr.
Okay, yeah, I remember him.
I think the whole world remembers him.
Yeah.
But anyway, briefly to go back, I was a Civil Air Patrol cadet in 1956 through 59, and I did fly a Piper Cub with an instructor, of course.
Right.
But we did many air shows around Baltimore, Washington, and Annapolis. I'm from Baltimore.
Okay.
And my first air ride was in a C-47, which I see is parked out with the warbirds. That brought back memories. I took photos.
Yes.
I was also, in that year, those years, a World War II P-38 Lightning
Yes.
was
Familiar with that airplane too.
all right. Well, our commander in the CAP was also the pilot that was to hop this over to Washington, D.C., the Boeing Air Force Base. And now the P-38 Lightning that's hanging in Smithsonian, I had one of the last rides, and it was wonderful. It was a two-seater. They were one seat, but this was two-seaters.
That's one of a kind, that airplane.
Well, yeah. Makes me feel old when I see it up
Yep.
there, and I've been up there many times. Back to Vietnam. We had to learn the war OJT, on-the-job training, because nobody understood what kind of a war we had, and we were early. Many of the weapons we had were World War II in Korea. We had the 3.5 rocket launcher, bazooka. We had the we landed with the M14 rifle, which was sort of the grandson of the M1.
Right.
We
right.
liked that. And then we had, because of casualties, we had switch weapons from time to time. I was a grenadier for a while, M79 grenade launcher, and with had a shotgun
Yep.
effect when you fired it. But getting to the air war, I have made my peace with F-105 pilots. Here at Sun and Fun. As a matter of fact, an F-4 pilot, he just gave, a friend of mine, he's also with the FMPTA in Tampa, he just gave a talk at the school across the way. But I just know his name by Neil. I know him so well, I don't even know his last name.
That's right.
But in Vietnam, made my peace with him. But whenever I see a Vietnam era aircraft on display, I go up and symbolically I kick the tire and explain to the young person why that this is just symbolic.
Right.
For all the times you guys strafed us,
Yep.
which is a whole lot. We had an A7 one time, I guess, Crusader. I guess he was shot up north. He was shot up north, wounded. He was wounded. And he bailed out about, we watched it, about 7 miles up. And we scrambled to the Hueys.
Right.
Barely, I grabbed my rifle, and some other guys. We were up high enough to see that A7 crash into the jungle with an impact that would make every American taxpayer cry.
Right.
But the pilot came down, landed in a swamp. He was wounded. The Hueys extracted him, but they lifted him up just above the trees, and the cable broke, and he fell back into the jungle. It killed him, So we carried his body back, on that. I did, because of my Civil Air Patrol experience early, We were in Dion, that's near Benoit Airfield. That was our division headquarters in '65 and '66. I went over to the pilot's tent and asked him to teach me how to land a Huey, and he did, because our fear was of the pilot and co-pilot get killed, which was quite often, and very probable. We're going to be stuck up there. Somebody has to bring it down, hopefully easy, and not the hard way.
That's right.
I'll tell you about the two crashes I did have. I have never gotten on a theme park ride since because the ride was very similar to a theme park ride. The pilots that we encountered were pretty good guys, We were also strafed by Sky Raiders. I was just talking with a Sky Raider pilot here at Sun and Fun, and we were swapping stories. I tell you a story, and it's hard to believe that while we were fighting a war, they were holding the Boy Scout Jamboree in Saigon, the Southeast Asian Boy Scout Jamboree. 4 Sky Raiders came on the scene to give an air show. We just watched. We only got 8 crummy hours in the big city, and then we had to get on a truck and go back, But the Sky Raiders, all they were doing is basically their sorties, how they conducted their sorties, coming down, going up. But the area was near an apartment complex, like a town and country here in the state. Long roofs with individual dwellings.
Right.
And one pilot, he was getting too close to those roofs. I thought, The other guys with me, they wanted to go get to the bar and said, no, I want to watch this.
Right.
And when he did, his wing was dipped too low, and he hit the roof, and he cartwheeled, and the fuselage crashed into an area. It's called Camp Alpha, and there was a beer station, sort of a tiki type thing, right in front. That's where it hit. And of course, the pilot was killed, but the devastation was really something. All that debris came down on the people.
Of course.
Because they were watching in their doorways. They just fell down on them. And of course, they had MPs and ARVN MPs. And
I think that the Sky Raider is an impressive airplane, though. It's so big. When you look at it on a picture or a video or something, it doesn't look that massive. But when you're really next to it, it's a huge aircraft.
They have one on the Warbirds right now. I took photos of it yesterday. Well, I have to say it impressed me.
That's right.
Every time we saw one, we got down.
Did they shout at you too?
Yeah. Everybody shot at us. We even shot at each other for a while.
Yeah, I guess that was the early area, the early times where there was a lot of confusion and a lot of stuff going on there.
There was a lot of confusion. Nobody knew. Why are we sailing over here? We said on the ship. By the way, I was seasick for 3 weeks. I was glad to get off that.
And you guys went on a ship from here to there?
Well, Oakland, California.
Okay.
It took 3 weeks to get over there. One day out of Oakland, and a boiler went up on the ship. So we circled around in a circle for 60 hours, then continued on. When we got off the ship, I was ready to fight the Viet Cong, so I wouldn't have to get back on the vessel. So the USS General Blatchford is the name of the World War II troop ship.
Okay.
So they were still using those. And that was in Korea before I went to Vietnam.
Okay.
I sailed back on the old Milk Run. You remember hearing about those?
No.
That was a World War II troop ship again, but it stopped in 8 different Asian ports to pick up returnees.
Right.
That's why they call it the Milk Run.
Right.
And I was seasick that time too. But when we got disorganized, it was very disorganized. Everything we did was disorganized. We finally flew up to Benoit on a C-130, I believe that was, you know. And from there we trucked and convoy up to our base camp at Phuc Vinh. But there wasn't a base camp yet.
Okay.
There was the airstrip and the village.
Okay.
We had to create that base camp with machetes and a 3/4-ton truck that some young lieutenant decided to batter down with the truck.
Right.
Because we had to dig in by nightfall because you stopped moving it and
Right.
you stopped moving at night.
Right.
Daytime belonged to us.
Right.
Nighttime belonged to Charlie.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they roamed around. But the first Viet Cong I saw, I'm a Christian.
Okay.
The first Viet Cong, I was not supposed to kill people.
Right.
But the first one I saw, it was about in that bush and that day, that night. I was hesitant about shooting. And my foxhole buddy, strangely enough, his name was Noah. He's a Choctaw from Oklahoma, you know. We said, what are we going to do? I said, I think we're supposed to shoot him. Flares were going up in the distance.
Right.
And he was silhouetted. You know, he wasn't out and light, but he was silhouetted. But we said, we're going to shoot him when the next flare went up. Next flare went up, and he was gone.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of telling my sergeant about that. He didn't like that at all.
Let me, I understand you wrote a book.
Yeah.
And why don't you talk us about that book a little bit before we finish the show?
The book is called The Blue Spaders, Vietnam. The Blue Spaders is the 1st Battalion, 26th Infantry, 1st Infantry Division. And in my book, it's just one GI telling about what happened in a lighter sense. It's not complaining. It's just telling what happened.
Right.
Like crawling in the tunnels. I was one of the first to crawl in the tunnels for my unit, for my Blue Spaders.
Right.
And what it is to throw a hand grenade and you're not sure which way it went.
That's
At
right.
night.
That's right.
You know, you had to identify the enemy from the civilians. And it's basically a walkthrough, chapter by chapter, of what I did, but what we did. You know,
Okay.
it's not just me. It's just trying to tell a younger generation, because my audience when I wrote it was the younger generations
Right.
coming around. It's been out for 23 years now. It's on all the online bookstores. They can find that, you know. And it's just basically explaining some of the things we did, many of the things we did, in not a humor way, but a lighter way, because we did joke and laugh sometimes over there.
Sure. I guess that's how you can
Right.
get over the other moments.
The day I was shot down, we got up and dusted ourselves off, went forward because they were shooting. My sergeant said, the enemy didn't really shoot us down, you know, we were coming down anyway. I said, yeah, funny, bam, bam.
Let me ask you this. How can people obtain your book?
They can go online, Amazon Books, Barnes & Noble, who else is out there? Any of the online bookstores.
Okay. Well, Carl, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show.
Well,
I really enjoy all your stories, and we're going to talk off air a little bit more about that.
okay, well,
And you, thank you so much. My name is Diego Alfonso with the Florida Aviation Network, and we'll see you next time.